Chapter 10. For a Thursday night, the streets of Central were busy and noisy. The hour was already late, but still there were hundreds of people wandering the footpaths. Many of the pedestrians were fans that had been watching the game at the stadium nearby, and their voices were the loudest. It appeared the local team had won, and the supporters were letting everyone know about the victory. The way the supporters sung and bustled through the streets, it was like they thought they had just won some grand victory. If their team wins, they personally win as well. Such was the mentality of feverish fans, and one Steele never understood. Among the jovial were others wearing sporting team colours and jerseys, but their mood was dour and dark. These individuals had clearly been barracking for the losing side. Whenever one of the winning fans saw them, they made sure to sing all the louder, causing the losing supporters to scowl and say curses and rude gestures in response. The pubs on the main streets were the loudest, filled with music and flowing alcohol, and almost deafening Steele as he walked by them. A small group of drunks staggered out into his path, almost knocking him over. "Hey, easy there, buddy," a large man with a portly belly and red face slurred at him. "Wash where you're walking." "We're crusaders, you know," the woman in the man's arm added, her eyes not focusing on Steele. "Go back to Baraka Town, loser." The rest of the group roared with laughter and started chanting a victory call for the Central Crusaders, the team that had obviously won the match. Without a word of response, Steele ignored the group and continued on his path down the street, catching the sounds of jeers following him. Never had he paid much heed to drunks or showed any interest in being one of them. It was a peculiar thing that all these people who were out drinking had worked the next day. They were no doubt the same type of people who were worried about losing their jobs, or having their boss upset with them. Likely they were the very same people who woke up late and rushed to get to their jobs on time, becoming angry when they end up stuck in traffic. Steele wondered if they ever had considered waking up earlier, or thought about not drinking heavily in the middle of the working week. He could easily guess the reason they were acted in such a manner, why they sought an escape from their situation, but he did not understand why they could not see that their desire and actions to seek only a brief escape was perpetuating their problems. He dismissed the fleeting thoughts into a deep breath and rubbed his brow as he focused on the importance of what he was doing. This meeting he was going to with Knox was essential, and he needed to concentrate. Passing by Central University, Steele gazed over the stone walls into the large grounds that seemed like a parkland in the middle of a concrete jungle. The buildings of the university were built to be imposing, made from stone blocks with impressive facades. Lampposts lined the path through the grounds, following the wide entrance path into the central courtyard of the campus, and all the buildings were lit up so there was no dark alleys. Above the campus trees, the rooftops and spiring city towers looked down on a small piece of greenery in a sea of grey, appearing to frown at the grounds that did not blend in with the rest of Central. Sometimes Steele wondered what his life would have been like if things had been different. As a police recruit, he would have attended some lectures at Central University, and maybe he would have done well enough to study for the detective exams on the campus as well. He pushed the foolish thoughts from his mind. There was no point wondering about what could have been, or even what might be in the future. Right now he had a problem in the form of the company associate, and unless it was dealt with, he really would not be able to ponder the future or reminisce about the past. Death was finite like that. Not far from the end of the university grounds, only a few city blocks away in fact, he came to his destination. In this part of Central, there were fewer pubs and clubs, so the foot traffic had lessened and the humid air was no longer filled with drunken rowdiness. Ahead, another part of the city stood out from the uniform skyscrapers. It was where the theatre hall, made from old stones with grand windows, and had large stairs leading up to the front doors from the small courtyard in the front of it where the sidewalks passed by and continued through the city. A few green trees stood around the square, offering shadows from the bright street lights and a refuge for loiterers. One such loiterer stepped into the light as Steele approached, a briefcase in his hands and a smile on his face. "There you are," Knox greeted him. "How'd your date go?" "Fine," Steele answered. The candle on the rose on the table was a nice touch. His tone had been sarcastic, but Knox did not seem to realise as he laughed before taking a deep breath and looking to the theatre. "You sure this is the guy?" Steele asked seriously, turning his grey eyes to the proud theatre wall. Yes, Knox confirmed. His name is Deke Reuben, ex-military. Some say he used to be in the Secret Service, but I doubt it. He now owns a lot of property throughout the city, from theatres like this to strip clubs, gyms, and even a production company. On top of being one of the most popular black market dealers, he can get nearly anything from the mainland without going through customs. But of course, it'll cost a lot. I'm surprised he's not with the company, or one of the smaller gangs, Steele remarked, starting towards the front doors. This way, Steele, Knox said, motioning for him to follow from the courtyard and towards a dark alley that ran alongside the building. He's not with the company because he hates politics, and that's why he's left the military. At least, that's the story. Well, whatever, Steele said, walking with Knox. If you think he's the man we need, then let's get this over and done with. Let me do the talking though, Steele, Knox said, stopping and bringing Steele's attention to him. He's not the friendliest of sorts, but he's got a weak point that I can exploit. You need to watch what you say as well. He's got a short temper. All right, Steele said slowly, regarding his friend closely. You take the lead. I'll act as your bodyguard or something. Well, if we're going to do that, I've got an idea, Knox said, a sparkle coming to his eyes. How about we pretend you're deaf? What? Steele frowned. We'll use sign language to talk, Knox said with a grin, causing Steele to laugh slightly. Let's not complicate things, Knox, Steele said seriously. This Reuben sounds like a guy who won't appreciate us talking secretively through sign language. Yeah, good point, Knox said thoughtfully, before he continued along the side road with Steele. Forget about the side language. Just let me handle him. All right, Steele nodded and clenched his jaw. He trusted Knox, and it'd probably work out better if he was the one organising this deal, but he never liked relinquishing control of something that was important as this. If things took a sour turn, he could always intercede, though. So he was happy enough to allow Knox to take the lead with Deke Reuben. Not far along the alley, a single light looked down on the side door of the theatre, highlighting two bulky men wearing suits and eyeing them closely. As he and Knox moved closer, the nearest man flicked away his cigarette and moved to block their path. Not that the man needed to move far, because Knox was heading straight for the pair anyway. I'm here to see Reuben, Knox said, stopping before the guards. Name's Knox. He's expecting me and my friend. What's in the case? The nearest man asked seriously, motioning to the suitcase in Knox's hand. For Reuben's eyes only, Knox replied mysteriously. I know his services ain't free. Come on, I don't want to be late for my appointed meeting. You want me to tell him that you two held me up? The two guards looked at each other, slight frowns coming to their faces before they shrugged slightly and stepped out of the way. With a smile, Knox continued on and through the doors, with Steele close behind. Inside the theatre, it was dark and narrow, and the narrow corridor led into a main theatre room that was filled with terraced seats. The stage at the fore was lit up with several people going through a rehearsal for some performance. Nah, a large-built man in the front stage cried, getting to his feet. What the bloody hell are you doing? You're supposed to be the lead, not some fairy boy. You want to act like a tit, I'll scoop out your balls and stuff you full of estrogen until you grow a pair of tits. Then you can work in burlesque like you clearly want to do. Do it again. This time be a man like you're supposed to be. Knox and Steele stopped in the dark aisle a few rows away from the irate man as one of the guards came from the side and whispered in the ear of the large man. Immediately the shadowy figure turned towards Steele and Knox, and he dropped a bunch of papers, presumably the script of the play, and moved to the aisle. Tempe, Reuben greeted, his voice low and heavy with hints of irritation on the edge of his voice. Good timing. I've had enough of this hogwash. I'll puke if I have to watch any more. Come on, let's go somewhere else to discuss business. Who's your friend? This is Steele, Knox introduced him as they followed the large man down the aisle and through the doors to the right of the stage. He's a friend and business partner. Not Reinhardt Steele? Asked Reuben, glancing over his shoulder as they passed under a light, which caused dark shadows to cover the man's features. I've heard a few stories about you. Jimmy has the hots for you, as I understand. Steele did not reply as he walked behind Knox, still trying to get a good measure of Reuben. The shadows of the hallways were not helping either, nor did it improve when they stepped outside into the side road, for it was dark with few lampposts. Reuben was a serious sort, that much was obvious, and not the typical military man. This gave credence to the rumour that he had worked for the Secret Service, but the man's heavy build did not support that theory. Reuven was not overweight though. He did have a paunch around the waist, and the rest of his frame suggested there was much muscle as there was fat. I also hear tales of Reinhardt Steele gunning to join Clara's group, Reuven continued as he pushed through the doors of a building that stood directly opposite the exit of the theatre. It seems you're stuck in the middle, Tempe. The corridor beyond the door was bright, and Steele grabbed Knox's shoulder to gather his friend's attention, and using sign language, he posed a curious question. Tempe? Steele signed to Knox. Is he one of your friends? Hell no, Knox signed back emphatically. I'm strictly for the ladies. You're more his type than me. Steele frowned at the remark, feeling a little bit of unease coming to him as they walked through the next doors which led into a large room. The smell of leather and sweat greeted them, accompanied with the sounds of grunting and clinking metal. The area was filled with gym equipment and people working out. Fans and air conditioning units near the ceiling worked furiously but could only mask the odour. But Reuven breathed deep as he entered, the annoyance that had been swirling around him seeming to lessen as he moved along the edge of the room to an office at the back. Absently, Steele regarded the people working out in the room, all of the men and women appearing to be serious bodybuilders and all lifting large weights. Most of the men did not bother to wear shirts, and the women there might have well done the same, wearing skin-tight leggings and sports bras. Fortunately, the lifters carried towels with them to wipe down their equipment after they were finished. From the initial impression, the gym looked like a good place to work out with no popular music bearing from the television speakers, and those who wanted to listen to music wore headphones connected to their mobiles. There was also very little cardio equipment clogging up the floor, and all devices and free weights were purposely used for working the muscles. By all appearances, this was not the kind of place an illegal dealer would operate. Inside the office, Reuven took a seat behind the desk and grabbed a bottle of whiskey from one of the drawers. One of the guards closed the door behind Steele, and he and Knox took up the chairs in front of the desk. As he sat down, Steele's attention was drawn to the very large window that stood in place of a wall to his right and looked back out into the gym. The sight struck him as odd, for it had been the same wall he had noticed to be a mirror. Clearly a two-way mirror, and Steele turned a concerned eye back to Reuven and wondered why the man had it in place. Drink? Asked as he poured a glass and dropped some ice from a bucket that was inside the same drawer. I'll have one, Knox said politely. Neat. Reinhardt? Reuven looked at him, but Steele shook his head. No thanks, Steele replied, and call me Steele. Is that so? Reuven remarked, sounding condescending. Afraid of your own name, are you? No, Steele replied casually, though his eyes were hard. Only let people I trust call me Reinhardt. Reuven chuckled at that and took some cigarettes from his pocket as he sat down. In the harsh light of the office, Steele was finally able to take good measure of the man, and he was not overly impressed. Reuven was bald with a shadow of a beard on his chubby cheeks and double chin. His shirt was bright pink, with sweat stains under the armpits and the top buttons undone to display his hairy chest and gold chains. The man's fingers were also adorned with gold, and he wore an expensive watch, and in both ears were diamond studs. Reuven was clearly a man who enjoyed the ostentatious sides of life. Despite owning a chain of gymnasiums, his drinking and smoking habits were something of a contradiction. About the office space was memorabilia from film, theatre and bodybuilding, giving the room a rather odd feeling, though Steele could tell that all the items were genuine and authentic, some looking like they had dated back many decades. So, how's business? Knox asked politely, taking a sip of his whiskey. Skip the pleasantries, Tempe, Reuven said, his voice hard. You said on the phone you had something you wanted to discuss, so out with it. Guns, Knox said flatly, causing Reuven to raise an eyebrow in surprise. I want guns from the mainland, along with ammunition. Reuven fell silent and took a long drag of his cigarette. I thought you wanted to get to the point, Knox said lightly, bringing a frown to Reuven's face. Guns, you say, Reuven said slowly. And ammunition as well. My, Tempe. What have you got planned? Could it be that you're actually here on Clara's orders, and she's planning on matching Jimmy in firepower? Knox did not reply, taking another sip of his drink. That would mean Steele here has already declared his allegiances with Clara. Reuben continued seriously. Well, Jimmy will be disappointed, won't he? Can you do it or not? Knox asked flatly. What the bloody hell you take me for? Reuben frowned. Some demented old fart who can't find his own prick. Of course I can bloody do it. It's just a matter of how many and how soon. And of course, it's about how much you can pay. Please, Knox smiled. What do you take me for? A pretty boy who can easily get in over his head, replied Reuben without missing a beat. But I know you'll treat me right. Only when it comes to monetary gain. But it's interesting you should say that, Knox said, bringing his suitcase onto his lap and drumming the top with his fingers. I have something you might find interesting. Steele could see that Knox had grabbed Reuben's interest, and the large man's watery eyes stared at the briefcase hungrily. I understand. You're a fan of the play The Iron Queen, Knox continued, his finger tapping on the lid of the case. Especially the one where Elizabeth Garland played the Queen. A fan, Reuben scoffed. Admirer. Elizabeth more than played the Queen. She was the Queen. Such transcendental emotion she brought to the role that no other's been able to match her brilliance. I saw her last performance at the Globe Theatre in West Side. She was like a goddess on stage. Not even Judy Taylor could take the spotlight from her. She would glide across the stage, her lines coming as natural as breathing. She would dictate how the scene played out, not the director. Never again has such beauty and grace stepped upon the stages of Eden. Well, Knox said after a pause, I gather you would remember the outfit Elizabeth wore in the final scene? Her coronation dress, Reuben asked, licking his fat lips eagerly. Come now, Tempe, stop teasing me so. Knox hid his smile, as did Steele, and placed his briefcase on the desk. Clicking open the locks, Knox turned the case around and opened it up for Reuben to see its contents. As the man got to his feet and gasped, Steele found himself craning his neck to see what was inside. Her coronation crown, Reuben exclaimed, his hand trembling slightly as he took the delicate crown from the case. It was ornate and rather garish, Steele thought, clearly well made though, and the glass gems shimmered in the light like stars. I know someone who has the entire outfit, Knox said as Reuben admired the crown with his wide eyes. Consider the crown as a down payment for the guns. So, do we have an agreement? My dear Tempe, Reuben licked his lips again and gently placed the crown back in the case before sliding to the side. You've outdone yourself this time. Naturally, the guns and ammunition are yours. I need but the finer details. What type of guns you want, how many, and when do you want them by? I'll give you all the details once I've confirmed them myself, Knox said, bringing a flicker of a frown to Reuben's face. That would suggest you're working for Clara, Reuben remarked. But why is she not paying for them herself? It's not like you to pry, Reuben, Knox said, feigning a playful innocence, causing Reuben's watery eyes to drift to Steele before they narrowed slightly. Perhaps Clara's not involved at all, Reuben mused. Are you expanding your business from rich old hags to arms dealing, Tempe? Knox chuckled as he stood up and Steele followed his friend's lead. I'll call you with the details soon, Knox said confidently, causing Reuben to rest back in his chair with a suspicious look on his oval face. Don't perv on these bodybuilders too much, you'll go blind. Knox led the way from the office with Steele close behind and headed straight through the gym floor to the main exit. As they headed off along the street together, Steele smirked and took a deep breath. You handled that well, Steele remarked honestly, bringing a smile to Knox's face. I have been doing it for a while, Knox replied proudly. Did you steal that crown from one of your lady friends? Steele asked curiously. Of course not, Knox snapped, though his tone was light. I don't steal from them. Not from the ones I like, anyway. That outfit and crown was a gift. One of your lady friends just happened to give it to you, did they? Steele asked, his tone showing his disbelief clearly. I may have asked for it, Knox shrugged, but she had heaps of stuff like that, so she didn't really mind. Do many of your clients have valuable possessions that you end up acquiring? Steele asked curiously. Almost all of them, Knox nodded, a playful look coming to his eye. Thinking of finding a few wealthy ladies yourself now? I can help. I think I'll be alright, Steele laughed. I'll leave all the wealthy ladies to you, Tempy. Please don't, Knox exclaimed with a disgusted frown. I hate being called Tempy. Don't you start doing it now. Why do you let Reuben call you that then? It makes it easier to work with him, Knox replied honestly. I can put up with it when there's some benefit for me in the end, but if you start calling me that, I think I'll just have to kill myself. Steele chuckled again. All right, I'll stick with Templeton. Thanks, Reinhardt.